the next 12 to 18 months, right, what is like one biggest risk that you see in the Indian markets today?
The biggest risk is कि बॉस ये risk को देखते देखते गाड़ी छोड़ मत देना. There will be volatility, so if you want risk, 90 days में there will be something. Watch for interest rate moves, yield move जो आपको आसानी से मिल जाती है, और दूसरा currency रुपी डॉलर देख लो. What we see people doing today in the marketplace is to have minimum 10 funds in their portfolios. So first thought that the investor should have is, how do I bring down number of stocks in my portfolio?
Right. So ऐसा क्या है, like what is that you are doing differently? If you could explain a little.
We believe our constructs are some of the highest growth in earnings portfolios that the country has. If you are long term and you believe markets will ultimately follow earnings growth, we are built for you.
If there was one opportunity of like the next $1 trillion economy, what space would that be and how should I identify that?
टेक कंपनी जो न्यू टेक बोलते हैं, फिनटेक हो गया या कंज्यूमर टेक हो गया, लॉट ऑफ दीज स्पेसेस कैन बी $1 trillion अपॉर्चुनिटीज ओवर 10-15 years. इन 90s जो भीड़ आती थी वो टॉप ऑफ द मार्केट पे आती थी, और एक इंडिकेटर होता था कि पान वाला भी स्टॉक टिप बता रहा है, तो मतलब इट इज द एंड ऑफ इट.
What do you think this generation, they have got it right when it comes to investing?
So the biggest change I'll tell you.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Power Talks. Today we have with us Prateek Agarwal, the CEO of Motilal Oswal Asset Management Company. First of all, thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time, and would love to start with the fact that you have over 3 decades of experience in this industry. So tell us a little bit about how this industry was back then and how have you seen it evolving over the years?
Yeah, so you are taking me down the memory lane. So, okay, when I started, there were very few fund houses, 5, 6. UTI Unit 64 was the single largest scheme in equity, and they used to offer fixed return.
Okay.
If I remember right, 12% or something. For a long while they did it, and then one fine day it wasn't possible, and government came in to support. Industry was tiny, so fund houses who are today lakhs and lakhs of crores were all sub 1,000 crores, even in 2004. In 94 they were even smaller. उस समय का तो मुझे याद नहीं है. So that is how it is. There was a time when equity was a new product, exotic product. The wealth houses will get their clients who are predominantly debt focused into equity. Equity then was supposed to be get rich quick kind of stuff. आप भी आओ 6 महीने में निकल जाओ kind of stuff. Vastly different from how it is now. So those were mutual funds had huge upfronts. Every NFO fund houses could charge pretty substantial upfronts. So a lot has changed. So transparency to the end investors has increased. Practices like upfronting has gone. Direct plans have come in. Direct plans were earlier not there.
Yeah.
There is this campaign which says mutual fund sahi hai.
Yeah.
There's something on SIPs. I think that has done a lot to bring the equity cult to Indians, mass Indians, and the industry has grown and grown. So plus the fact that earlier, even if you see, I would say 6-7 years back, X of top 10, top 12, the whole industry was bleeding money. Now X of a few, everybody would be profitable. That also I think has happened because a lot of changes have happened and the industry has been able to scale up. So you achieve profitability reasonably quickly.
Fair. So
that has happened.
Got it. So on that note, what is your current investment philosophy, like your personal investment philosophy?
So Okay, there are two kinds of manners of investing, trying to make money. One is what I call value,
Mm-hmm.
which is you buy a stuff which is worth 100. For some reason, most people forget it. For some reason, it is available to you for less than 100. You can take any number, say
Mm-hmm.
50. Okay. Now, most people say, yeah, this is cheap, I want it.
Hmm.
बट भाई उसका रीज़न तो निकाल ले
Yeah,
कि क्यों सस्ता था.
correct.
Because you will go from 50 to 100 only if the reason changes,
Hmm.
you know, for the better. That I say is value investing. The other kind of investing is that there is a business which does 100 rupee of cash flows this year, does 130 next, 160 the year after, and it continues. And hence the value of the business keeps expanding over a
Hmm.
period of time. That is growth investing.
Hmm.
My inclination is towards growth.
Okay.
So if you see this house, we are very, very growth focused investors.
Hmm.
We believe our constructs, be it mutual fund, be it alternates, are some of the highest growth in earnings portfolios that the country has.
Hmm. Got it.
So इसमें क्या है कि lot of the people, if not all of the managers, are somewhere in between.
Hmm.
Okay, and my thought is that is being done because of this big demand of providing consistent performance. So you want to be everywhere,
Hmm.
in so that you are not very different from the index, which to me, you know, makes a lot of competition commoditized. If
Hmm.
everybody looks like everybody else, so it doesn't really help the investors make a sharper choice.
Hmm. Right. So इसमें like I want to double click here, right? And as I was telling you, out of our user base, there's good 40-45% that's in has at least one Motilal fund in their portfolio, right? It's so popular. So ऐसा क्या है, like what is that you are doing differently? If you could explain a little bit more to a retail investor like me, I am invested in Motilal. How would you explain it to me?
No, so lot of differentiations. One I hinted on earlier, we believe standing out as India's only growth focused investors
Okay.
and running highest growth in earnings portfolio. So if you hold the belief that over time markets follow earnings growth,
Hmm.
the journey can be choppy. You should be with us.
Hmm.
Instruments like SIPs, etc., help you even out the choppiness on the way.
Hmm.
ठीक है, तो if you are long term and you believe markets will ultimately follow earnings growth, we are built for you.
Hmm.
But you will have to digest choppiness, is our thought. Then second, what we do is to build 20 to 35 name focused high conviction portfolios.
Okay.
There are two portfolios which are outside of this range, but this is how the whole house is built. So if you Google out as to how many names an individual should have in his portfolio of stocks,
Hmm.
you will get a compressed number. You
Hmm.
know, it's not 500-600 names.
Right.
Most of the ultra HNIs would be happy with 30 to 50 names.
Okay.
Okay, if you look at a Sensex as an index, it's 30 names.
Hmm.
It does a jolly good job of representing everything. Nifty is 50
Yeah.
names. Okay, so we run focused high conviction portfolios. We say if you want growth style of investing and are okay with volatility, we alone are
Hmm.
good. But suppose you want a steadier ride, pair us with the best of value.
Hmm.
Okay, now we do, let's say, ballpark 25 26 name portfolio. Best of value may be doing 80 to 100 name portfolio. Overall, you are still arriving at a construct
Hmm.
which is 100 names.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, what we see people doing today in the marketplace is to have minimum 10 funds in their portfolios.
Hmm.
Now 10 funds constructed long mean they have 500, 600 stocks.
Yeah.
We are owning the market and paying active management fees, so the
Hmm.
outcomes are suboptimal. Have any one of our funds on the growth side, have somebody else on the value side, 100 odd names, job done.
Hmm.
So first thought that the investor should have is, how do I bring down number of stocks in my portfolio?
Right, right. Absolutely. Totally agreed. And second, you said is on, owning certain themes, right? Think of these themes will become big. But as a retail investor, right, हमें जो सबसे पहले, how I also started my journey is, okay, let's start with a bunch of large cap, mid cap, small cap, and make your portfolio that ways. What's your view on, constructing your portfolio that route versus, a more thematic route? The reason I ask this is because, I don't I'm not into the markets all the time as a retail investor. So, should I be tracking certain themes? How should I go about it?
No, so when you give an active manager in a large cap, mid cap,
Mm-hmm.
flexi cap, small cap spaces money, uh, the flexi cap manager has the maximum ability to move across. He's
Hmm.
flexi. There's
Right.
no restrictions on him. Others have higher restrictions. Let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to outsource everything to the manager, opt for a flexi cap.
Hmm. Okay.
If you think your risk profile is such that you want larger caps, be with larger. If you are younger, longer duration of investments are possible, you could take different ones. So, but in these constructs, the manager chooses sectors, managers chooses themes which may offer higher growth and builds.
Hmm.
So you're de facto paying for that expertise of the manager.
Okay.
Now, if you are selecting themes, then you're taking away that from the manager. You're
Hmm.
doing it yourself.
Correct.
So, as a manufacturer, when we launch thematics, we launch growth-oriented thematics,
Hmm.
but they shall go through their own ups and downs. And we believe the client is taking his own call. We, as a
Hmm.
manufacturer, are just bringing a vehicle to enable the client to do
Yeah.
that. Now, when we build portfolios, we, like I said, we have all growth spaces in the portfolio. To the
Mm-hmm.
extent that these spaces can have a actively managed fund, we are bringing out
Hmm.
actively managed funds as well. So we call it thematics. If the number of stocks in the space is smaller, we may do a passive.
Hmm. Okay.
So, bringing out vehicles that the investors can choose to build their own portfolio. But then the idea should be to have like 6, 7 thematics,
Hmm.
so that de facto you are having a good, nice diversified fund.
Got
So
it.
if you look at our thematics, we try to be closer to 20 rather than closer to 30. So even if you have 5 thematics,
Hmm.
once again go back, you are ending with 100 names.
100 funds, 100 stocks. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's essence, that's
yeah,
the core.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So actually thematic is always very interesting to me as a retail, and I think in general last year also we saw, AUM chased the returns and sectoral में इतना thematic sectoral में इतना rally हुआ. You mentioned something, right, at the starting कि वहाँ invest करो जहाँ youth spends, right? That's the investing for future. In that context, right, where do you think are, these in the thematic zone, where are these new age spaces that, one should feel there is an alpha? What's your view?
No, so this is our big differentiator when you end the question with an alpha. For 2.5 years, we have been saying this is period for alpha. Let me
Hmm.
just flesh it out for listeners. See, index is a very difficult animal to beat
Hmm.
in normal times. Okay, the best of the companies who have had a stellar track record have ended up being there. Every company starts small, it
Hmm.
does something very well for very long, and you end up being in the index.
Hmm.
So, as such, it is a vehicle which is very difficult to beat because these are businesses which have excelled. which have been doing better than what the economy has been doing for a very long period of time. Okay. So we say if you want excess returns, just keep following this thought that markets follow earnings growth. We say your chances of generating excess return increases if you get a new space. It's new, so it is not there in the index.
Correct.
Right? So think software in the 90s. You had an index of whatever then. If I remember right, it had one of those Premier Padminis and Hindustan Motors as part of it. Software was a new space which started small companies, but grew. Many of them did 100% for multiple years. And I think this was one space that Indian managers latched up to. And two, three of the managers whose names you remember today had 30, 40 or more percentage of software in their portfolios. This was the golden period of alpha generation in India. We go a tad ahead. In early 2000, you got a lot of these private sector banks come up. HDFC, Kotak, Indus, Yes, Axis, ICICI converted, IDBI converted. There were one or two fell on the way. But once again, new space grew 2x to 3x, nominal growth of the economy, 2x to 3x larger peers on the public sector side, and I think most delivered strong alpha for 20 years. ठीक हो गया. तो वही है, space not there in the market, new, small, long runway of growth and delivery. So एक expectation होता है, दूसरा delivery होता है. Real estate did it briefly and so on. So now if you just hold that thought and try and see what has changed in the marketplace over last 5 years, there was hardly any electronic manufacturing in the market. Okay, it wasn't there as a part of economy as well, मतलब 10 years back or something. So it's a very new space. So newness होना चाहिए market में हो या ना हो. There was one hospital which was listed. Okay, now think of it, India getting old, so this is slightly different from what youngs buy. But even the senior citizens will need support. So that is where the hospitals come in. Then if you see luxury as a space, earlier maybe one or two names were listed, now you have quite a lot. And when I am talking spaces, think whether these will grow 3 to 5 years significantly more than the index, if not for even longer time. Okay, there was no renewable company, at least from the solar side, listed. Okay, there was no so-called tech company, जो new tech बोलते हैं, fintech हो गया या consumer tech हो गया, listed in the market. So if you go space, so actually there was no mutual fund listed in the market. Don't take 5 years as 5 years, but no mutual fund listed. So there were some broking houses which were listed, that was it.
Correct.
So all of these spaces, we believe, offer the same combo of higher than nominal growth of the economy and hence index for several years, just like software and banks, private sector banks did it earlier. Versus earlier when one new space was emerging. This is first time, and when listeners think of this, they will say कि अरे इसका तो बोला ही नहीं, इसको ये छूट गया. This is that first time that we are experiencing when so much change is happening in such a short period of time. So if you see our portfolios, the common thing you will see is it's built of these new spaces. The whole thought of China plus one started from bottom of COVID. When the world said we want to disengage, we want to have second source, supply chains and all of that. That is what it is. So if you see our house, you will find any space that does, if I put a number less than 12-13% earnings growth, you put a more aggressive number, 15 to 20% earnings growth is not there. So we as a house don't take it at absolute zero, but we are practically not there in banks, X of our large cap. So X of large cap has to be there. So उसको छोड़ देते हैं. But we are hardly there in banks. We are not there in staples. We are not there in large cap IT. We are not there in cement, steel, metals, oil, coal, ICE engine vehicles. You know, and then you wonder where we are. So we are in all
The
of
new
the
age
newer spaces, which then automatically increases the earnings growth quotient of our portfolio, and it is very different from what is the index.
Right.
So this is what we have built. You know, if investors understand us for what we do, then you tell me that 40% of your guys are our investors, 100% will be.
Of course, of course. I think so. We spoke about themes, we spoke about a lot of technical stuff. I also want to understand about you as a person, as someone who has been in capital markets 30 years, say. What's your relationship with money? Like, how has it evolved with time? Tell us more on that.
Well, money was important to me always because back then we didn't have any. तो जो हमारी जनरेशन है ना is the generation of accumulators. You know, for my kids, your this things have changed, and for next generation it will change again. But तो वो एक चेंज है. Now relationship with money का क्या बताऊँ? Today you may have it, but you can't spend it. वो एक फ़र्क होता है. My kid can, तो वो रात में बोतल पे बोतल मंगा लेगा. कुछ दूध की आ रही है, कुछ कुछ आ रहा है, खाना 10 बार ही मंगाएगा. बट वी गो आउट, उसमें एक्चुअली 20-30% ज़्यादा लगता होगा इफ यू ऑर्डर स्टफ एट होम.
करेक्ट.
वी गो आउट टू गेट.
True.
तो वो फर्क है. वो तो अब चेंज नहीं हो सकता.
Fair. But you know, and because you mentioned, right, the different patterns of how your kid is spending versus, or like this generation is, right? From an investment standpoint, right, you have seen different generations investing different way. What do you think this generation, and I mean like Gen Zs and millennials, they have got it right when it comes to investing?
So the biggest change I'll tell you, in 90s, you know, you will see people come in at the top of the market. जो भीड़ आती थी वो टॉप ऑफ द मार्केट पे आती थी, और एक इंडिकेटर होता था कि पान वाला भी स्टॉक टिप बता रहा है, तो मतलब इट इज द एंड ऑफ इट.
Okay.
नाउ दिस टाइम इफ यू सी, and this I say, there was no manager who increased the equity allocation for people who do multi-asset at the bottom of the COVID.
Okay.
Everybody was so negative, you know, इंडिया बंद हो जाएगा, क्या होगा पता नहीं. अगर आप देखोगे जो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर है, he came in huge numbers, and it was their buying which and their support which stabilized the market and took it up.
Right.
Now why it happened I don't know. Maybe it was work from home, लोग खाली थे, market में डाला, I don't know, but it happened. So this time this is very different.
Right.
Okay, and it worked for 3 years, 4 years, and maybe 5 years. So there is some degree of confidence that has happened. And with it, the ability to take risk. So एक जो चीज मैंने देखी है वो ये कि people come and ask me कि मार्केट गिरी है तो अच्छा है ना, अभी मेरा पैसा तो सस्ते में लगेगा ना. See, if the market keeps moving up, then every bit of your money is invested at a higher price.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been asked this question. Like, अच्छा हाँ, सही पूछ रहा है तू तो. So we say sips are good, but dips are very good. तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा change है. For short period dips, Indians no longer get spooked.
Right.
They think it is at least one section of the Indians think
Yeah.
it is a great opportunity.
So on that, I think short period dips, yes, but do you think, because when we all entered, right, हम बहुत time से एक bull rally देख रहे हैं, right, but जैसे earlier this year, I think 3-4 months जब mid small caps went down, right, do you see people are like now actually seeing through कि हाँ market नीचे भी जा सकता है, like, and they take out their money? What is your observation on a more macro level?
So if you look at mutual fund inflows, I would believe they peaked in the September to December period last
Right.
year,
Correct.
and after that, month after month, they have been declining. So ऐसा नहीं है कि long period dips are taken in this stride. It does stall people. So we have had 3 months of reasonably strong recovery, but my sense is the earlier positivity is still to emerge. But I think we are seeing green shoots in this month. It's getting a tad stronger.
Okay.
So, on a day to day, if you are seeing what monies are coming in, it's getting a tad stronger. But itna hai ki through this period of negativity, monies continued to come in. SIPs were, many SIPs got cancelled, but still they may have gone to some other house. Overall, the numbers were there.
Got it.
तो अब क्या है कि after a long while we are seeing sustained profits also in these spaces.
Okay.
मतलब मिड एंड स्मॉल. तो जैसे हमने अपनी थीम्स की बात की, अगर आप थीम्स देखो और आप कंपनियां सोचो, तो कुछ ही कंपनियां लार्ज हैं. से ऑल दी ग्रोथ स्पेस ही 8-10 साल पहले निकली है, तो उसकी
Right.
कंपनी लार्ज कैप कहाँ से हो जाएगी?
Right.
सो यू मे बी इन द मिड एंड स्मॉल कैटेगरी मोस्ट ऑफ इट. So I think people are seeing better revenue growth, better profit growth. Somehow they understand that this leads to better stock performance.
Got it.
So मतलब for all the narrative, we thought people will not come there, but they have continued to up. Check कर लो, last 4 months that data is public. These categories have
So
continued
we
to
have become more, I think, this generation also more open to risk. So, sir, in the next 12 to 18 months, right, what is like one biggest risk that you see in the Indian markets today?
तो बिगेस्ट रिस्क is कि बॉस ये रिस्क को देखते देखते गाड़ी छोड़ मत देना. There will be volatility, so if you want risk, 90 days में there will be something, duties, this, that, whatever. Watch for interest rate moves, yield moves जो आपको आसानी से मिल जाती है, और दूसरा करेंसी रुपी डॉलर देख लो. बाकी किसी ने कुछ किया, अगर रुपी डॉलर ठीक है तो impact won't be much. Our markets will continue to do their bits. It is run by domestic money now primarily. So this is my simple take.
Right. Embrace the risk, but we are up for the long ride.
So अगर आप immediate term की बात कर रहे हो, तो कब मिला था आपको 50 बिप का कट एक ही दिन में? So there the guy is saying embrace the risk, wanting to make the country embrace the risk. No, that is the whole thought process. वरना तो RBI governor is supposed to be most risk averse person. अगर उसने 50% काटा है, तो कुछ तो messaging है ना उसमें.
That's true.
So our interest rates and US yields, the differential is historic low after all of this. If currency stays stable, many spaces to make money. Very soon you will see the population say कि debt में बैंक में रख के तो ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं बनते हैं, चलो यहाँ करते हैं. So that is something which makes me very positive.
Right. No, makes perfect sense. And you said about the new spaces, right? If there was one opportunity of like the next $1 trillion economy, what space would that be, and how should I look at, like, how should I identify that?
Nice. So there are many spaces which will do it. So देखो, do you think India as a country can keep importing electronics? After we can't produce more oil, we don't have it. We have searched and searched. If we get it, very good. But electronics after gold is our next biggest import. ठीक है, उसको हम बना सकते हैं. अगर हम उसको बनाएंगे तो आप सोचो कितना रेवेन्यू होगा.
Right.
That will translate to some numbers. Can it be $1 trillion industry, yes, it's huge. Globally आपको दिखता है. फिर while we are a young country, मतलब 23-24 की एवरेज एज होगी, 25 साल के बाद भी 35 की होगी. But if you look at the fastest growing age cohort is over 60. So healthcare for senior citizens is going to be a large industry.
Right.
If you look at luxury, as people get richer, they will travel more. You said you like to travel. When they travel, they will take an airline, they will go and stay in a hotel, and as per capitas increase, maybe in a better hotel. So just think of it, hotels put together maybe 25,000 crore market cap 10-15 years back. Now one is over a lakh crore. So a lot of these spaces can be $1 trillion opportunities over 10-15 years.
Right. No, I think makes complete sense. Last question, sir, on this. One mistake that you are seeing mutual fund investors are doing when it comes to analyzing their funds.
One should not say a mistake because everybody is right, frankly. It's another way of looking at things. So देखो, there is this thought that high beta is bad. Now that thought comes in because most people look at that indicator when markets are down. तो फिर आपको दिखेगा कि जो हाई बीटा वाले हैं वो ज़्यादा गिरे हुए हैं, which is what beta is supposed to do. And this narrative happens कि high beta is bad. But if we see over a period of time, practically all indices are up. ठीक है. So if you consistently had a high beta portfolio and the high beta sustained, beta changes and high beta sustained, then your outcomes would be better with high beta, na? So please decide what is better.
Right.
Now beta is the measure of volatility. Now volatility can be high for good and the bad reasons. So one reason, if you just follow markets follow earnings growth, is if you buy a higher growth company, it will have higher beta. We think that is a good beta. But if a company has more leverage, or if its profits are more volatile, like it happens in commodities, it will also have high beta, but that we think is bad beta. Okay, so if you want to improve your outcomes, reduce bad betas, embrace good beta is what our thought is. So आपकी end outcomes will be good if you preserve the character through thick and thin.
And look at fundamentals basically. अगर fundamentally वो
higher growth in earnings, all companies, most spaces will have higher beta by definition, no, because they are supposed to do more than what the market is doing.
Right. Makes sense.
So that is a very different thought versus what people have. And so beta alone, but then segment beta for this is good, this is not good, this is not good, and then have the good part of it in the portfolio.
Right, makes sense. I think that has been super, enriching and educational today for all of us. So thank you for taking out the time. I think last question, and I'll end this conversation there. We spoke about investing in where the youth is spending or youth is consuming. We spoke about new age themes. I think I always like to ask this for people who have been in decades and decades in this industry. What is that one advice that you would give to a 30-year-old today who is investing in mutual funds?
No, so we spoke of a lot of that. First, look at number of stocks that you hold rather than number of funds that you hold. If you can pair the growth managers with the value managers and understand that both will not work together, but your outcomes will be better versus buying a lot of names. I think that is something that we would want him to take home.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time.
Thanks.
I had so much learning today.